What if a virus could turn off your fear? What if it could reach inside your brain and make you more aggressive, more reckless, more likely to bite something? Not as a side effect, not by accident, on purpose. Because biting is exactly how it spreads. That virus is real. It's called rabies. With only 5 genes simpler than almost anything else that can kill you, it hijacks your nerve cells, blinds your immune system, seizes control of your brain, and delivers a high fatality rate once symptoms begin. Today, we're going inside the human body to trace exactly how it does this from a single bite all the way to the brain, and find out what makes rabies the deadliest infectious disease we know, and why timing is the only thing standing between exposure and death. The word rabies comes from Latin, meaning madness or rage. And its genus name, Lyssavirus, comes from Lyssa, the ancient Greek spirit of mad rage and frenzy. Both names fit perfectly, because that's exactly what this virus can do to its hosts. Rabies has haunted humanity for at least 4,000 years, and even today, it still kills an estimated 50,000 to 70,000 people worldwide every single year, with nearly half of those victims being children. Despite everything modern medicine can do, rabies remains almost universally fatal once symptoms begin. So what exactly is rabies? It's a disease caused by viruses in the Lyssavirus genus, roughly 20 species in total. The most common and widespread is Lyssavirus rabies, and it can infect any mammal on Earth. It's a zoonotic disease, meaning it spreads from animals to humans. Dogs are the most common source of human rabies infections globally. But in the United States, thanks to widespread pet vaccination programs, bats have become the primary culprit. Rabies is what's called a neurotrophic virus. It is specifically built to invade and travel through the nervous system. And that single fact explains almost everything about why it's so dangerous and so difficult to fight. It all starts with a bite. A rabies-infected animal's saliva can contain millions of viral particles. When those particles are pushed deep into tissue through a bite wound, or even through a lick on broken skin, or a mucous membrane, the infection begins. But here's the first strange thing. Rabies doesn't race to your brain immediately. It lingers. The virus begins replicating slowly in the muscle tissue near the bite. Muscle isn't its real target, so replication here is sluggish. This is one of the main reasons rabies has such a remarkably long incubation period. The time from exposure to symptoms averages 1 to 3 months. But it can be as short as a few days, or, in very rare cases, stretch far beyond that. One major factor that affects timing is the location of the bite. A bite on the face or neck, closer to the brain and more richly supplied with nerves, will typically result in a faster progression. A bite on the foot or hand takes longer because the virus has farther to travel. Eventually, the virus does something remarkable. It leaves the muscle tissue and slips into nearby nerve cells' neurons. And this is where rabies reveals just how sophisticated it really is, especially for a virus with only 5 genes. Neurons are long. Some stretch over 1.5 meters. They have a terminal end that communicates with other cells, and the cellular machinery, the nucleus, at the other end. Somehow, the virus needs to get from one end to the other, and it solves this problem brilliantly. Inside every neuron, there are microscopic transport systems called microtubules, like internal highways with tiny protein motors called dynein running along them, delivering packages inside the cell. The rabies virus uses one of its 5 proteins to hijack these dynein motors and essentially order them. Take me to the nucleus. And they do. Once inside, the virus travels up the nerve toward the spinal cord. But crucially, hiding in neurons gives the virus a massive advantage. It is almost completely invisible to the immune system. Here's why that matters. Normally, when a virus invades your body, infected cells raise the alarm by releasing proteins called interferons. Interferons do 2 powerful things. They alert immune cells to come and destroy infected cells, and they force all nearby cells to become more transparent, displaying samples of what's being made inside them. through molecular windows called MACH-class I molecules, so immune cells can detect the infection and eliminate it. Rabies blocks this entire system. Infected neurons cannot produce interferons. They stay dark, invisible. The immune system doesn't even know something is wrong. And because rabies replicates without immediately killing its host neurons, unlike most viruses, it doesn't trigger the usual alarm of cell death. It moves stealthily from neuron to neuron, slowly creeping toward its real target. Eventually, the immune system does catch on and sends its most powerful weapons, killer T cells, to eliminate infected cells. But rabies has one more trick. The central nervous system is fragile. To prevent immune overreaction in the brain, nerve cells have the built-in ability to order T cells to self-destruct if they seem to be overreacting. And the rabies virus has learned to exploit exactly this mechanism, triggering infected neurons to issue that kill order, sending your own immune defenders to their deaths. The virus marches on. Once the virus reaches the brainstem, the situation becomes critical and irreversible. Rabies virions begin replicating rapidly, spreading through the brain and into the peripheral nervous system. And yet here's one of the most baffling facts about this disease: brain tissue in rabies patients often shows minimal physical damage. The virus doesn't destroy cells the way most infections do. Instead, it appears to disrupt communication between neurons. It binds to the receptors brain cells use to talk to each other, and essentially seizes the controls. The result is clinical rabies, and it takes two main forms. The more dramatic form, called encephalitic or furious rabies, occurs in about 80% of cases. Its symptoms include fever, extreme agitation, hallucinations, uncontrolled movement, and aggression. But the most iconic symptom, the one that has haunted descriptions of rabies for thousands of years, is hydrophobia, a fear of water. It's not just psychological. The brainstem damage causes violent, involuntary spasms of the throat muscles whenever the patient tries to swallow. The pain and terror of these spasms becomes so severe that even the sight of water, or eventually even the mention of it, can trigger the spasms. In some patients, a sudden gust of air can do the same thing, causing aerophobia as well. The autonomic nervous system also goes haywire, causing excessive sweating, uncontrolled tearing, and dramatically increased salivation. That saliva is now saturated with virus particles, ready to infect the next host. The aggression in furious rabies is real, but episodic, not the relentless, single-minded pursuit you might imagine from zombie movies. Periods of violent agitation alternate with periods of calm. Gradually, the patient slips deeper into neurological decline, then coma. The remaining 20% of patients develop paralytic rabies, a quieter but equally fatal progression, with weakness and ascending paralysis spreading from the bite site, ultimately killing through respiratory muscle failure. In both forms, death is almost inevitable. Once symptoms begin, there is currently no cure. And yet, this is where the story takes a remarkable turn. Rabies is one of the most preventable fatal diseases on Earth. Rabies was actually one of the first diseases humanity ever developed a vaccine for, a remarkable achievement that changed the course of infectious disease medicine. And what makes it even more extraordinary is that the vaccine can be given after you've already been exposed. Today, two categories of vaccination exist: pre-exposure prophylaxis, given to travelers heading to high-risk regions, veterinarians, wildlife workers, and post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP, given after a bite. And here's what makes rabies vaccination uniquely remarkable. It can work even after you've been infected. Because of that long incubation period, you have a window before the virus reaches your nervous system in which your immune system can be trained to recognize and destroy the virus. The vaccine typically triggers antibody production within 7 to 14 days. To bridge that gap, patients also receive rabies immune globulin, preformed antibodies, derived from human donors or horses, which provide immediate but temporary protection while the vaccine takes effect. If PEP is delivered quickly after exposure, outcomes are outstanding. But speed is non-negotiable. If you are bitten by an animal, especially a wild animal like a bat, whose bite can be so small you don't even feel it clean the wound immediately. Collect whatever information you can about the animal and get to a doctor or health department without delay. Do not wait. Rabies is a monster one that has shadowed our species for 4 millennia, that ancestors across every civilization feared and described in almost identical terms. Despite everything we've built, vaccines, modern medicine, global surveillance, it still kills tens of thousands of people every year in parts of the world where access to post-exposure treatment is limited or delayed. Thank you for watching. If you found this video fascinating, don't forget to subscribe to Science Curiosity for more deep dives into the science that makes our world both beautiful and deeply strange. We'll see you in the next one.